It's always sad to report when you lose someone that you've met, particularly when you've enjoyed your time with them. We're talking, of course, about a Hollywood star that was a star from the 1950s, a very beautiful young girl called Piper Laurie, who really was of a generation. Incredible when you think. Of course, Oscar nominated twice for The Hustler, and of course, Carrie, The Hustler, a big success alongside Paul Newman in 1961. Now, I was lucky enough to meet both Piper Laurie and, of course, her one time boyfriend for a period. That's right, the ever shy Tony Curtis. Now, Tony, of course, was known for being debonair, very good looking, and of course had a bit of a way with the ladies. The stories he told me about all the particular ladies that, of course, he co starred with, dallied with, and more importantly, stepped out with, including the likes of Joan Crawford, Barbara Stanek, Nancy Reagan, or Nancy Davis as she was then. He had a story about them all, but he was more deferential regarding Piper Laurie. Now, you see, when I interviewed her, she was obviously on the promotional trail for Twin Peaks and was a really nice lady. I mean, obviously of a certain age at that point, but really had come back to look at her career. She'd starred with all the big names of the day, the likes of Rock Hudson, was friends, of course, with James Dean, mixed in the circles alongside Marilyn Monroe, and even co-starred with a still with us blonde bombshell, Mamie Van Doren. Yeah, what a lady she is. Great fun, let me tell you. But what's interesting here, you see, is that Piper herself was never really keen on the world of stardom. As she told me, she signed up to the studio, but really didn't necessarily like the studio system, the machinery around that. She was very much influenced, as many people were back in the 1950s, by the Method School of Acting, fronted, of course, by Lee and Paula Strasberg. Marilyn Monroe, Marlon Brando, Eli Wallach all went along and came back saying, this is the way you need to act. Of course, studio systems are about money, speed, and fastness. And Piper Laurie really didn't necessarily fit in to that mold when she decided, of course, to go down the method route. But what was interesting, as Tony pointed out to me, was she was more than happy to give it all up for a life of normality. As Tony pointed out, they starred in one or two movies together, that they had a very passionate embrace, very passionate affair, and she wanted to get married. But as he pointed out, he'd started literally in Hell's Kitchen, as they called it, over in New York City, and wanted to make something of himself, realized that this was an opportunity. He didn't really care about method or all that sort of stuff. He knew he was a good-looking fella, and he just wanted to make movies and money. Piper wanted something completely different, and as he pointed out, they both ended up looking at different ends of the lens. For Piper herself, in 1962, she got married to a journalist and enjoyed a sort of shorter life outside the spotlight, only coming back into acting around about 15, 20 years later. When she did come back, she was given the respect and reverence that she truly deserved and remained, I thought, very beautiful. At 91 years old, we sadly lost her, but what a body of work that she leaves behind. And isn't it odd when you think all of these greats that we're sadly losing in their 80s and 90s now, they are really from a golden period. Piper Laurie told me that James Dean obviously never foresaw his future, but what she did let slip was this. She said, look, he realized that the bottom line for him was he was seen as a teen icon, but he hoped that he could grow out of it and suddenly earn respect. What he really wanted to do was get behind the lens and become a producer. He didn't really like becoming a star. It's these sort of gems that you're lucky enough to sit down with these people and find out the real person behind the Hollywood hullabaloo. For the rest of the world, Piper Laurie remains a beautiful young girl who starred in some of the most memorable movies of a particular generation. And as ever, it's a very sad loss, but what a lovely legacy she truly left behind. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.